I've made the executive decision that next week I am going to Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Valentina, Val at ValFit, and today we're just gonna do a sit down video. We're gonna talk, you and me, and we're gonna talk about how in the world I got leaner on vacation. So full backstory, I did an 8-week cut leading into my vacation in Cabo. I've talked about this on my Instagram, but I didn't really do the cut for a specific physique goal. I did it because I was in a pretty dark mental place, you know, when I started the year, and I didn't feel good in my skin. I didn't feel good about my habits. I had gained some body fat from just not being able to like get myself to show up for myself. And this cut was really about putting myself in a really good mental place to be present while I was in Cabo, and just to be in a place where I could fully enjoy and not be self-conscious. Because, you know, if you're not in your most confident state, you can't fully like enjoy and be a part of your surroundings. And I really wanted Cabo to be a week that I looked back on with like just nothing but happiness in my heart. So this cut was really to put in the work, to feel really self-efficacious and disciplined and everything going into Cabo, so I could feel good about myself on the trip. So I did my cut. I did run my shredding guide. I did drop it while I was in Cabo, so it is live now and it is linked below. So I did my shredding guide for 8 weeks. I lost 12 pounds, okay? And then I went to Cabo for a week, and while I was in Cabo, I literally enjoyed the fuck out of myself. I ate whatever I wanted. I didn't stress about working out. I didn't like stay away from alcohol. I'll talk about everything I did. I have like notes in my journal. But point is that I left for a week, lived my life, and I came back and I actually looked leaner. So I'm gonna go ahead and insert before, like at the start of the cut. Then I'm gonna insert at the end of the cut. So my last check-in before going on the trip. And this is my check-in 2 days after getting back. So if you look at a comparison of my last check-in before I left versus my check-in when I got back, you can see I actually stayed the same weight, but I got visibly leaner. So we're gonna talk about why, and we're gonna talk about how that's really affected my mindset moving forward in my fitness journey, at least for the rest of the year, and kind of what I wanna do with my life and my approach. So let's start with Cabo. Okay, so I'm consulting my notes, and the most important thing that I think I need to note before going into this is that while I did display a lot of lax behavior while I was in Cabo, I think the reason I responded so well to that was because I worked my ass off going into Cabo. So like I said, I ran my shredding guide. My cardio was pretty intense. It got up to just over an hour every single day, or 5 times a week. I was tracking my macros to the T, eating the same exact thing every single day. I can't remember the last time before Cabo. I can't remember the last time I went to dinner. Can't remember the last time that I didn't like hit my meal timing perfectly, like pack meals with me on the go. My water was chugged, you know, Epsom salt baths twice a week, step count every single day. Like every variable I could have executed on, I executed on. And it put me in a place where I could respond well to then pulling back. And I think this is similar to whenever you see people get really competition lean, and then right before the show, they start to carb up, they start to bring down cardio, and they respond well to that. It's not like if you're starting a weight loss journey, you can just bring food up and bring cardio down and you're gonna lose weight. It's kind of about being in a prime state for those more lax behaviors to pay off. And I think that one of the biggest notes is that I did work my ass off going into Cabo. That's number one. The second biggest thing was the decrease in stress that I had while I was in Cabo. And my day-to-day is not stressful. My biggest source of stress comes from here. And I just did a TikTok on this because I experienced a huge plateau in weight loss during this 8-week cut. For the first 4 weeks, I only dropped 1 single pound. And for those first 4 weeks, I was working so hard, but I was getting so frustrated with myself, and I was putting all this pressure on myself to be at my end goal, and I was so frustrated with myself that I wasn't there. And I was doing all the actions to eventually get myself there, but it was like, why am I not there yet? And that pressure, which is like, it's silly. It's like, you know, starting a road trip and the moment you get into the car getting mad that you're not at your destination. Like, bro, if you're doing a road trip, instead of getting on a plane, you're enjoying the ride, you know, and you know you're gonna get there, but enjoy the fucking drive, you know? And I just I was putting so much pressure that it was actually like blocking my body from responding. So after 4 weeks, I like did a lot of journaling and reflecting, and I let myself be more present with like where I am currently and just be fulfilled entirely with the actions I was doing that I knew would get me there. And I think just that acceptance of my present state really helped accelerate progress. But obviously, as I'm on my cut, I'm still worrying, so to say, about progress. It was still in a non-stressful way, but I was still worried about my progress, if that makes sense. And in Cabo, it was just this like free feeling of like, I'm just here. There's no checking the scale every morning. There's no worrying about what I'm eating, if I did something right or if I did something wrong, if I could have done something better. There's no guideline to compare myself against as to whether I can say good or bad. It's just being, it's just experiencing, it's just doing. And I think that decrease in stress had a really, really positive effect on myself, my mind, my physique. The other thing is that I didn't track macros, and this goes along with my third reason, which is food sources and food quality. I think when you're tracking macros, you're kind of operating from a sense of like, okay, there's a limit, so how much can I get out of my limited resource? And for me, even though I'm on meal plan, so I haven't really been exhibiting this behavior in the past, that's really been a lot of like, you know, what's the lowest calorie option for this? Like avoiding certain foods because they're higher calorie, even though they might be like nutritious, if that makes sense. And in Cabo, because I wasn't tracking, I had no stress about what I was eating. The question wasn't, does this fit? How will this affect my physique? It wasn't anything. It was, do I want this right now? Will it make me feel good? That was like the thought process going into every decision I made regarding my food, my eating, all of that. And then also because I wasn't worried about the macronutrient breakdown of the foods I was consuming, I was able to choose foods that I would enjoy, that would make me feel good, and that were nutritious. So eating guac, I typically don't eat avocados in my day-to-day. They're full of healthy fats, but I just typically don't eat them because I personally am like, I don't want to spend my fat macros on them. I prefer nut butters or whatever. I typically don't drink coconut water. I am a coconut water hoe. Watch my Cabo vlog and literally like make it a drinking game. Take a shot every time I drink a coconut. You're gonna get drunk. I drink a lot of coconut. I love coconut water, but it's high in carbs. So I would never in my day-to-day, especially with limited macros, spend like 20 or 30 carb on a glass of coconut water. But when I was in Cabo, there was no such thing as thinking about like how many carbs are in this cup. It's like, this is delicious. It has natural electrolytes. It's refreshing as fuck. Like I'm out in the sun, I'm sweating. I want a fresh coconut. And so by not tracking macros, not only did it relieve, again, more stress of worrying, but it also shifted my focus to like food sources, food quality, and like what nutrients I was getting and not what macros I was getting, if that makes sense. And I think that that just, my body processed like clean fucking good foods. I mean, I was eating fresh fish every single day. I was eating fresh guac, drinking so much coconut water, staying super hydrated, getting lots of fruit, vegetables, things that I would normally have to do in some kind of limited capacity because of macros. The other thing that I think helped a lot was that I went into it kind of knowing like, okay, I don't want to get obliterated. Like I'm not going to stay away from alcohol, but I'm also not trying to like drink. I'm not a big drinker, and that's something I'm really proud of, how I asserted that kind of standard. Like I didn't give in to every shot that was offered. I didn't give in to most of the shots I was offered because I don't enjoy them, but I did drink every single day. It's not like I went to Cabo and I did not drink or that I'm scared of alcohol. It's just I don't enjoy a shot of tequila. I prefer to have my skinny, spicy pineapple margarita. That's my new go-to. I want one right now. They're so good, so refreshing. And opting for just healthier drinks. Also, this goes back to the health thing. Whenever you get a margarita and it's skinny, it doesn't mean it's not sweetened. They sweeten it with agave rather than using like a pre-made processed sugary margarita mix. So I stayed away from a lot of sugary cocktails because they're likely not being like freshly made. And if you get like freshly made drinks or stick to just lighter alcohol sources or cocktails or whatever it may be that you also enjoy, because that's key, then you're likely getting just better quality ingredients also put into your drink, which I think both together made a difference. But it was just basically staying mindful. Like I know how alcohol makes me feel. I know that there's kind of like it has like diminishing returns. Like there's, you know, 1 drink, you're feeling good. 2 drinks, you're feeling good. 3 drinks, you're feeling better. But there is a certain point where like more drinks doesn't necessarily mean you keep feeling better. You might actually end up feeling worse. So I was just very mindful about like, what am I putting into my body, whether that be food or alcohol, and how is it going to make me feel? Because my goal is to feel my best. And I'm not feeling my best if I'm turning down dessert. We had dessert every single day, like every single day. But I'm also not feeling my best if I'm overeating to the point of being so full that I don't feel good. It was literally, my goal was like, what decisions can I make to maximize feeling good? And I think I did a really good job at handling that. And it's like the first time in my life, I think, that I've handled it that well. And we'll go into my relationship with food soon because it's going to affect my decisions going forward. But I think the last note that I want to say about Cabo is also that we did stay really active, but without the pressure of needing to work out. So I think I only did cardio 3 times versus other vacations. Like I'll be like, no, I have to wake up and get a sweat session. And the only reason I did cardio 3 times was because I had work. Like I wake up, my inbox is full, and you know, I just hopped on the elliptical while I responded to those emails, and all of my like activity is in my Cabo vlog, so you can go look there. But also you crave movement sometimes, so I would just knock 2 birds out with 1 stone, get my work done, get a sweat sesh. Like I said, I only think I did 3 of those the entire week. And then Aaron and I did a couple of like pump workouts. I don't think they were more than 25 minutes long. Like one of them was like a 40-minute leg day. It was like our second day there. We were really ambitious, but by then, like, we just wanted a pump, we wanted movement, but we didn't want to waste time in Cabo, like in the gym, because we do that every other day of our lives. And not having that pressure also allowed us to have more energy to like walk the beach. And oh my God, that shit is exhausting. Like walking the beach, walking everywhere, taking pictures, being active out in the sun. Like it was just a good combination of movement, but without the stress of movement, that I think just kind of really went into improving my physique and improving my experience. So all in all, I think the reason I got leaner was a combination of just less stress, better food sources, giving my body like a rest and adequate calories from solid quality food sources, staying active without the stress of staying active, and just it all kind of like came together. And I think that that's why I had such a good response. It also allowed me to kind of come back and get right back to program, but with like a really refreshed mindset. So I am tracking macros right now. My macros are higher than when I left, obviously, because I'm not trying to get deeper into a cut. I'm really happy with where I am with my physique, and I'm really happy with where I am with my relationship with food. Probably for the first time in my life, this is the best it's ever been. Even Erin made that note. She was like, I don't think I've ever heard you say so many times, like, I'm gonna do ABC or I'm not gonna do ABC because of how I feel or how I want to feel. And this time, like, the decision maker was my body. It was, what does my body want? What does it want? And how does it want to feel? And I'm alluding to something I'm going to go into soon, but I've never let my body be the decision maker in my life. I've never let my body be the decision maker in how I eat, in what I do. I've always had like a distrust with my body, and therefore I've always had to exert control over it and try to keep it in check. And that's why I've always tracked macros and had, you know, strict protocols. And I guess I've just never trusted it. And this week I said, okay, baby girl, do your thing. Like, this is your week. And we like worked together, and it was really fucking beautiful. But to wrap up Cabo, I don't want to give this impression that I was like only eating like fish and vegetables, and that I like was able to stop every single time I was starting to get full and I had like this. No, bro. When you're eating a delicious ass dessert, it's hard to stop. There was one night specifically, I remember, we went to dinner and I was so full because the food was so good, and then they came by with like this like milky marzipan coffee cocktail dessert on top of our dessert, and we were like, yeah. So we had that, and I was so full when we came home. It was like 1 a.m. when we came home, and we had chocolate pizza left over from Bagatelle, and Aaron and I just sat there in bed talking, eating chocolate pizza after I was already full. I was so full that night that I like couldn't even finish my water that I planned to drink. Like, I have a cup of water that I always drink before bed, and I couldn't even finish that because I was so full. And I woke up the next day, and I remember thinking like, zero guilt, which is a huge win for me, but also just remember thinking like, okay, next time let's not get to that point, because drinking water is helpful for me because it helps me go to the bathroom the next day. So my bathroom was a little thrown off the next day, but it didn't affect how I felt in terms of how present I was. It just affected like, okay, I'm gonna be a little bit more mindful because I don't want to let this continue into me just not feeling good. So today I'm gonna be just more mindful, stay more hydrated. If I can get a little bit of movement in, I will. And that was kind of like the approach. So I don't want to give off this like vibe of like, I just only ate healthy things and barely ate or whatever. No, it was a really good just like back and forth checking in on my body, making a decision. Was it good? Was it bad? Oh, don't want to continue that? Okay, let's change course. It was just me and my body working together for the first time ever, and I'm just like, I love you, dude. I love you. Like, I'm in such a happy place with my body. And this brings me to what the fuck am I going to do moving forward? Because clearly my body responded really well to getting to make the decisions for the first time in my life. And so I've made the executive decision that next week I am going to stop tracking macros for the foreseeable future. And this is a huge deal to me. If anybody knows me, they know this is a huge deal to me because I have been tracking macros for 9 years straight, okay? Since 2015, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. That's 9 years of tracking macros. And obviously, I'm not saying that in the past 9 years, I've tracked macros every single day of my life, but for the past 9 years, anytime I had a fitness goal, anytime I wanted to feel good, I tracked macros. And anytime that I didn't track macros in the past 9 years, it was not a choice, it was a consequence of something else going on in my life. So if I was in a bad headspace and I just couldn't get myself to stick to my macros for the life of me, I might have taken a step back from tracking then, but it was coming out of a place of like, this is a consequence of my mindset or my bad mental place. You know, I stopped tracking a little bit around recovery. Again, that was a consequence of me recovering from surgery. I stopped tracking a bit when I, vacationed in Europe. Again, that's a consequence of me having something else going on. I have never, from a good headspace, from a motivated, driven, disciplined headspace, made the choice to stop tracking macros. It's always been a consequence. So for the first time in my life, I'm like, damn, I am going to make the choice. I have the discipline in me. I'm in the right headspace to wake up every morning and kill my macros. And I'm going to choose to not. And for the first time ever, I think that that's just so empowering. And I have so many reasons for why I'm doing this, and I think that my week in Cabo, how I handled it, how I proved to myself that I could handle it, how I proved to myself that I can trust my body, that really sealed the deal for me. So for the past 9 years, basically, I've been living my life in a way where I don't trust my body to make decisions, and therefore I've been tracking my macros as a way of keeping it in check. And I think this stems from my relationship with binge eating. I've talked about it a little bit. I don't think I've ever gone super in depth, but I have struggled with periods of binge eating in the past, especially after competition seasons. I would say this year it was pretty mild, but it was not without binges. I did have a couple in October, early November last year, I want to say. That put me in a bad headspace. And I had another one earlier this year. And for me, it's very hard for me to trust my body when I feel like when it has freedom, it doesn't know what to do with it. And I think the other part of the narrative that I've fed myself for a really long time is that my body is fat resistant. My body doesn't cooperate. I've always assumed this narrative and this identity of my body working against me. And I honestly think I've just never given it the opportunity to work for me. And I've always tried to keep it in check because I haven't trusted it. And that has kind of resulted in this negative relationship with food and a negative relationship with my body where like it rebels sometimes because I spend so much mental energy trying to keep it in check because I don't trust it. And I refuse to believe that I need hours and hours of cardio to stay decently lean. And I refuse to believe that I need to be super low carb and track every single macro and avoid healthy, nutritious foods in order to stay decently lean and comfortable and happy and healthy. And for the first time ever, I'm going to be choosing to trust my body to make those decisions because I know that it can. The other thing is that for the past 9 years, I've been eating according to whether an app tells me if I have more food left or not. And no part of me has checked in with my body and asked, do you want more food? Do you need more food? Are you hungry? Are you full? Like, I've completely taken my body out of the equation, which is probably the most important factor in the equation when it comes to feeding behavior. And I don't want you to think that this is me like shitting on macros. I think macros are so fucking valuable. I will definitely go back to them when I start competing again, when I start, finalizing my off season, when it's time to get my calories up, when I want to become more systematic about my goals. But right now with, personal things that I have coming up, with the move, with not competing in 2023, I think it is the time that I need to take for myself to repair this relationship with my body, repair this relationship with food, and just prove to myself that I can trust it. And I think that it's gonna be really fucking freeing, and I think that I'm gonna be really happy that I did it, but I don't do it because I have a negative take on macros. The same way that somebody who's eaten intuitively their entire life, I would urge them, hey, you should track macros for 6 months of your life. You're gonna learn so much about what's in your food, about food sources, about food portioning, about the macronutrients in your food. You're gonna learn so, so, so much. But as somebody who only knows tracking, the reverse is also valuable. It's also valuable to learn to not focus on all of that, to learn to trust my body to make the decisions. I'm just so sick and tired right now of, for the past 9 years, like seeing something healthy come up, a salmon bowl, like homemade air fryer salmon with like mango pico de gallo. Homemade, wild caught, healthiest thing, like full of nutrients, and it's something I just wouldn't eat because too many ingredients for me to worry about tracking it, too many fats in the salmon, don't feel like using them, like just, or like not eating a salad because I can't track it. I'm over this. And I've always been too scared to do this. And I think I'm like, after Cabo, I'm like empowered as fuck to do this. And like I said, I'm still gonna have all my clients on macros because my clients are not in the same position I'm in. My clients have not been tracking macros for 9 years of their life. They have already established eating based on their body, and now they're learning how to track macros. I think knowing both is invaluable, and right now I only know one. So, you know, it's gonna be a journey we're gonna take together. I don't know how it'll go. I am really proud of myself for choosing to do this at a place where I'm in a really good place with myself, because normally when things are going great, like if I'm in a good headspace, I'm tracking macros. I'm hitting every gram. I'm going to bed with my macros to a T executed because that makes me feel good, and also that makes me feel like I'm doing something right. And now I'm like, I want to remove this guideline. I don't want there to be a right or a wrong. I just want there to be my body as the decision maker. And I think that it's going to work really well for me. It's going to set me up to not be so resistant to progress, because I've always believed this narrative about my body being resistant, but I've never even given it the opportunity to do things on its own. I don't know. This sounds so frou-frou, but all in all, I think it's finally time for me to like bridge the disconnect that I've had between my mind and my body. Like it's always been like we're operating on two different planes. Like my mind has rules that my body has to follow, and that's how it's always operated. Like my mind owns my body. And I think it's time for like my body and my mind to just become equals, and to bridge that gap between them, to bridge that disconnect, to be on an even playing field, and for my body to have just as much of a say in my decisions as my mind. I think that's going to be really powerful for me moving forward, and it's going to allow me to be more present. It's going to allow me to say yes to more things. And it's just like a period of my life where I'm going to be present in every sense of the word. And, you know, I had these thoughts before Cabo that I wanted to do this, and that was my first kind of inkling of like, okay, I think I want to quit tracking macros for a long period of time. I'm not going to say how long. I'm not going to hold myself to anything. And again, I could change my mind. I'm human. I could fucking change my mind, and I don't want any of you motherfuckers coming at me because this is just my current headspace. But for now, where I stand, I'm done tracking macros. And, you know, that isn't going to change how hard I'm going to go in the gym. It isn't going to change how disciplined I am, because you still need to be disciplined. Hell, you need to be more disciplined to say no sometimes to yummy ass shit. If you have no macros to tell you that you can't, if you have no guideline to tell you that you can't, and it's just a decision you're making out of what's gonna make you feel best, that's still fucking discipline. Like nothing is gonna change other than my use of an app on my phone and the fact that now my body's gonna be in the driver's seat of my decisions. So I'm really excited about this moving forward. I feel like I've talked your ears off, so I'm gonna end this here. But if you have any additional questions, please let me know. I'll obviously be talking about this, sharing my experience on here, on Instagram, on TikTok, so follow me on there. If you did enjoy this video, like, comment, and subscribe to follow along my intuitive eating journey. I have so many videos coming up. Oh my God, like I'm editing every single day. So do subscribe to keep an eye out for those. But if you haven't watched my Cabo vlog yet to see all the yummy food, all the Carefree Cabo Val vibes, go ahead and watch that. But until then, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.